Welcome to CD 200 Online for the summer session. I'm Nancy Browning, the professor of the class. I've been teaching this class online for a while, and I'm pleased that students like it and that the learning outcomes are the same, if not better, than when I teach the class face-to-face. So here's a little bit about me. I've taught at Lincoln since 1980. I've taught everything from reading and study skills to GE 101, the university seminar class. I've taught developmental reading and writing, and I've taught this CD 200 class in the classroom since 1996 and online since the summer of 2010. In fact, I was one of the people who developed this class as a part of a committee, and the class has actually changed a lot and developed over time, and we're really happy with it, and I think you'll enjoy it. It's an application class and not a lecture class. It's normally a discussion class, and what we do here is mimic the things that we would do in the class, like write on the board, tell diversity stories, talk about our journals, watch movies, and discuss them. So it's been an interesting and creative process to try to figure out how to do that online since we're not all in the same room. And as with any class, we continue to work to improve it. So I would love to hear from you at any point during the semester or at the end if you would rather it be anonymous when I give you an end of the semester survey. I'm a communicator and I prefer over-communication to under-communication from you. If you need me, the best way to find me is to send me an email through your Lincoln Mail or through Moodle. I'll be checking my email throughout the day, and I'll let you know if there will be a time when I'll be away from my computer for an extended period of time. If you don't hear from me within a 24-hour period, you will know that something is wrong. Either I did not get your email, my ISP has dropped, I have no power, or something weird has happened. Please either try again or call me. If we need to talk by phone, I would prefer that we set up a meeting unless it is during my office hours. But in the case of emergency, feel free to call my home phone since I will not be on the LU campus. Please call during office hours if possible, and otherwise no earlier than 9 a.m. and no later than 9 p.m. So I just want to assure you that even though this is an online format, I'm available to help you in any way that I can. I'm also having electronic office hours where you can email me and expect a quick response depending on the number of people that are there emailing me, or we can chat through Moodle. I've listed the hours on your syllabus. If there's ever a time where I'll not be able to make these hours, I will give you substitute hours. In that case, there will be an announcement posted on Moodle, and I will also send you an email to tell you that the hours have changed. Now we're going to walk through the syllabus as we talk. In order to do this properly, you should have your syllabus printed out in front of you. I know people prefer to be green, and I do also, but the students who've not printed their syllabus often find out later there are assignments they do not understand and forget to do. So what is this course about? As you can read through the syllabus, you'll see the course description. We will look at diversity issues like race, class, gender, sexual orientation, ethnicity, ability, religious experiences, and even age, or topics like height, how people are treated differently based on a specific characteristic. We're going to look at the power and privilege of people who have certain qualities, and a lack of power and privilege, and the experience of discrimination against people who are perceived as different and perceived as the other. Sometimes students predict that this class will only cover race. Race is a big part of this class, and yes, this is an HBCU, so race does tend to be something we talk about a lot. I want you to realize we are going to look at all the systems, these systems of oppression, racism, sexism, classism, heterosexism, which is discrimination against people who are not heterosexual, where people are being given privilege or power or have that taken away depending on what social category they are perceived to be in. You will understand more about this as we go through the semester. So we will look historically at why we have these patterns of oppression in the U.S., and then we'll see how these patterns of power and privilege play out today. As I've already said, we take a discussion approach. This is a writing-intensive class. There's a lot of writing, and especially since it's online, there's even more writing because the things we would normally discuss in class, you will have to write about. Just keep that in mind as you're doing the work for this class, and also as you look at the objectives. You'll see that mainly you're going to come out away with more of an awareness of diversity and be able to think critically about it. By the way, I don't give tests. I don't really think tests are the best way for you to learn. You can keep that in mind as you're doing this work. Sometimes you might think there's a lot of work, and there really is. I want to make a point about political ideology. I'm a very liberal person on the spectrum from left to right, and I just want you to realize that your grade is not dependent on my political philosophy nor yours. As long as you answer the questions honestly and do the assignments required. Basically, I'm asking you to question things. This is a class where you may leave a little more confused than when you came in, which sounds weird. In a class like this, where you might come in with an idea that this is the way you believe, you might leave thinking that you're not sure if you believe that anymore. That will always be your personal choice, and I will never say you have to believe a certain way in order to make a good grade. In fact, speaking about grades, this is a class where everyone can make an A if they do the work. Your grade will be based on you performing to the level required, and I will make that level clear for each assignment. Make sure you do a good job, pay attention to the rubrics, and most importantly, keep up with the work, and everything will be fine. On the second page of the materials, we do have 2 textbooks. One is Race, Class, and Gender in the United States. We will not read all of it. Make sure that you only read the parts that you are assigned. They will be on your syllabus and also listed within each week's unit. The other is Johnson, Privilege, Power, and Difference, 2nd edition. We will read all of it. Additionally, there will be a few extra readings with links through Moodle. If you see something on your syllabus that is not in the book, there will be a link. I've also listed a few websites here. When you are looking for articles or other things about diversity, you might check those out. Now we're going to talk a little bit about the grading breakdown. I'm not going to go through every one of these projects right now. As the semester unfolds, through your weekly lessons or throughout the semester, assignments will include introductions to everything you are required to do. Also, the actual handouts will be online. I do want to say a few things about the grading. One is there is a lot of writing for this class, and it is writing intensive. Normally, during a regular semester, we would be in class for 2.5 weeks, 2.5 hours a week. And the usual rule of thumb for how much homework you can have if you're in class for that time would be about 2 hours of class for every hour of time that you're in the classroom, so that would be 5 hours of homework. But since we're doubling this within an 8-week period in the summer, that means that we would be in class for 5 hours, and you could have up to 10 hours of homework per week. There is really no way there will be 15 hours of classwork per week. I would certainly like to know if you do that much work. In fact, if you want to keep kind of a rough estimate of how long these things are taking you to do in a week, I would love to know that. Again, we're trying to mimic what we would have done in the class. Homework and papers are on their own are quite extensive. Basically, what is in the syllabus are the reading assignments and a few major deadlines. If you want to work ahead, you should work on those readings or your final project, which we'll discuss in a minute. We're going to talk a little bit about your journal, and even though it says your journal is collected twice for 50 points each, your journal is also going to be posted on a weekly basis. You need to make sure you keep up with the 4 entries you'll make weekly, because you'll use your completed journal to post your best entry each week. You'll also comment on other people's journals. I will give your journal entry some kind of quality points at a particular point halfway through the semester. At the end, you will end up with 100 points for that part of your journal, besides the grade that you get for posting them weekly. We will also be doing observations, which is another writing assignment, and the directions will be on Moodle. Here you'll be looking at things out in the world, such as you might notice an ad where there's a man in a wheelchair, and you might think, how often do I see people that have to use a wheelchair in an ad or in the movies? Are they usually just there when the movie is about a person with a disability, or are they there just randomly like anybody else might be? I do want to say some general things about your final project and paper. There are 7 things related to your final project. There are a lot of points associated with it. You will be spending a long period of the summer working on your final project. It is really important that you find something that you're passionate about. I'm going to tell you about a few of the projects students have done in the past. Once I had 2 students that both worked here at Lincoln. One was an African-American female and the other a white female, and at the time they were in their late 20s, early 30s. They knew each other well enough that they could take the same Grand Am to a car dealership to see if they could trade the 3-year-old Grand Am for a new Grand Am. You should stop now and think about what you think happened next. If you guessed correctly, they were not treated the same. The white student was given service very quickly. She was not questioned when she said she wanted a new Grand Am. They just showed her one. They didn't ask about her car or how she would pay for her car. They gave her a good trade-in. When the black female came with the same car, first it took at least 10 minutes more time than for the white female for her to be served. The trade-in was hundreds of dollars lower, but the most interesting thing to me was that they really focused on her credit, or perceived lack of credit, even though they didn't know her at all. Here she is trying to trade in a car after 3 years. If you can trade in your car after 3 years, you probably have some money. And when she said she wanted to see the new car, they said, "Oh, are you sure you want a new car? We can show you a nice used car." That was very interesting, and it shows us that we don't always know if we're facing discrimination. We just go in and do something like shop or try to get a loan, and people might be nice to us, but we don't know what would happen if we change one thing about ourselves, like our race, gender, or age. But when we do